Good advertising requires good bottom of funnel, or your ROIs are no good and you can't outbid the guy next to you.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers. Here is another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. I have Jordan Gordon today. He actually hosts the world's best email and retention podcast. He's also head of email retention and CRO at Pilot House Digital. Hey, Jordan, welcome.
Hello, great to be here. Nice to meet you.
Yes, very exciting topic, definitely for today. So important, right? CRO, retention, email. I mean, and you've done a lot also in the industry for more than 2 decades. But before we dive in, Jordan, I wanted you to think about like 3 words that are most important to you and why.
Yeah, thank you for that. In our little chat beforehand, you said I need 3 words. I thought real quick: scale, depth, and dedication. And actually it wasn't too hard to think through these. Mm-hmm. Scale. So the systems that I've put together over my career, again, working for some of the biggest companies in the world and also working on startups that go to exit, is quickly moving people from, a state where their scale is not large enough for them to operate, to grow, and scaling them. So just very quick ramp up is something that's very important to me. Depth of knowledge. I personally like to understand something to the kind of nth degree. So, like I say, 2.5 decades of working in e-commerce, I've just found a few things that I really enjoy and just learned them inside and out. And then dedication, right? I mean, you might have heard this before, but you'll never find water if you just keep on digging holes here and there. You got to pick one hole and just keep digging that hole, and then you'll find water. And that's not just in e-commerce. That's all throughout life.
Yes.
Scale, depth, and dedication.
Interesting. The tenacity, right? Just to keep going, right? And I love the depth. I mean, how do you do that? And I mean, it seems that everything is getting more complex, like every day, right? Every channel has become a community. Every technology bit is now, need to get specialization. It's expertise in each one of those channels. How do you choose? I mean, you choose by your passion, by interest, or how do you decide? They zoom in and learn more.
Yeah, I'll just talk about in my case. It's funny. When I was a young man, working at a books, it was a startup that exited to Amazon, and I was chatting with the CEO, Hannes Bloom. He's just kind of a brilliant mind in business. And I said, hey, I was doing email at the time. I said, what should I do? And he kind of just looked at me and said, why don't you just do email? Right? It was right in front of me. I was already working on it. I was doing well at it. I'd already been doing some database analysis, and database and CRM kind of fit together. So part of it's just obviously luck. We all stumble through life. And then when you see something you enjoy, you just give it a big hug and stick with it. Right? Now, also I'll say like more along what we're talking about. I mean, I work at an agency. It was my first agency. I did 20 years in the brand side before I started doing agency work. Usually it's the reverse. Usually someone got 5 years in agency and then got a brand job. So I showed up and already had this rather intense depth of knowledge, like I say, from some of the biggest companies in the world, and working on startups and ramping them. And on the brand side, it's an inch wide and a mile deep. You got to do everything down to the smallest little thing. And now on the agency side, I work on packaging that knowledge up, so that we can just drive the most value and get the best of that in a recipe that we can repeat across brands.
Yes. And obviously you work with a lot of customers that are having this Shopify, Klaviyo kind of implementations, right? And there is so much focus around advertising, but you need to make sure the bottom of funnel is self-sufficient. So walk me through these thoughts of process.
Yeah. Well, so I audit hundreds of brands. It's just part of what I do. Is I just get inside everybody's Shopify, everybody's Klaviyo, and we launch a bunch of these brands. And I'll just throw a couple numbers at you that can help you help everybody out there understand. Should I be dropping what I'm doing and go focus on kind of email retention right now? Right? Should I be dropping what I'm doing and focusing on the website? Yeah. So just some stuff out there so people understand the importance of this. We take like this kind of benchmark, 5 million a year Shopify. It's kind of this where we'd start, working with a lot of Pilot House would start working with some brands, but at that size. the analysis I've done is on a 7-day last click, 7-day platform last click, comparing all the platforms. What would you get if you took the retainer amount you'd spend on email? We think in retainer amount, but at home, if you're an executive, you could think of the salary that you're devoting to the channel, whatever it is. We take what are we spending on email, and what if we just took that and spend it on ads? And it's 10x more, even for a fairly small brand, right? I mean, we hear these numbers. Email is a 41 times our ROI or whatever. I mean, those are aggregate numbers. I'm sure they're including American Apparel in there, but we see at just a really startup business, still small revenue, you're getting 10 times more on a 7-day last click. So you want as much of that revenue as you can get. Of course, it's what happens bottom of funnel is a function of what happens top of funnel. So, you can only scale that so much. There's a limit to how much you can scale email. The limit is what you've done top of funnel, but whatever you can get, you want all of it. Because once you've done that, once you've got that low cost revenue, and that low cost revenue, by the way, an important part of that is that we find Klaviyo, for instance, is about 65% of the revenue is from buyers. They've come through, they're out of your ads funnel, right? And buyers reactivate, your cheapest buyer is the buyer you already have. So by reaching buyers very far back and reactivating them, you increase your Shopify revenue without increasing your ad expense because they're not in your ads funnel. It makes your marketing expense ratio better, and then you unlock more spend to spend up funnel. And so the net of all of that is when you have really good email, and we were discussing email there, Shopify as well. Of course, we didn't get into that, but of course, if your website's converting, if your bottom of funnel is good, it makes your advertising work better, right? So good advertising requires good bottom of funnel, or your ROIs are no good, and you can't outbid the guy next to you who's bidding on advertising placements.
Can you elaborate that further? I mean, what is the real connection between the bottom of funnel and your advertising, success ratios?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, let's say we'll just pick really round numbers. Let's say your ad expense divided by your Shopify was 25%, right? And then you go in and you reactivate a bunch of buyers from a year or two ago, right? And those buyers are not currently in your ads funnel. So you are not chasing the same dollar. I mean, let's put it this way. If your most email programs are focused on people that are just coming in the top of the funnel, you might do a quick win back, at 120 days or something, and 2 emails, like as if 2 emails reactivates anybody, and then you kind of walk away. So email is basically just this thing that catches the top of the funnel. So let's say you've got that set up and you're running your ad expense is 25% of your Shopify domain. Well, then you go and you reactivate hundreds of buyers from a year or so ago. Well, that's going to drive a bunch of revenue. It didn't drive ads. So let's say that brought your advertising as a share of Shopify down to 20%, which is pretty efficient, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking actually mine's more like 30, but whatever, we're just using round numbers. That brings that 25 down to 20. Suddenly everyone's going, hey, our ROI is great. Let's invest more in ads, right? So specifically driving that revenue from buyers who are not in your ads funnel currently, by not chasing the same dollar, by not just squeaking in a bunch of touch points to steal click attribution from your top of funnel, but by not chasing the same dollar and focusing on the rest of your business, specifically making sure there's peanut butter on every part of the toast, right? You want to just spread that peanut butter around. You have to reach your entire audience. The only real way to reach your entire audience is using email and SMS, right? Because you can just one-to-one make sure, hey, we're not hitting this person. Let's hit this person.
Yeah.
By doing that, bringing that spend ratio down, suddenly you can respend to get back to that 25. But that respend is going to represent even higher revenue.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of like this is holistic or ripple effect, right? Those two channels just combined together, that makes a lot of sense, right? I also wonder, there are a lot of I think a lot of focus around performance, right? And paid media and ads, right? And you have a channel here, which is just sitting here, probably considered as probably a support channel like email, but not a profit center, right? Why do you think it's like in a lower priority or ignored by some of the leaders out there? And how it seems like it's more just than just a mindset shift. It just, what are your tactics or what are your tips to show them that it can become like a real profit center?
Yeah, this is the riddle of email. for sure in my mind, right? After so many years doing email. Well, first of all, it's a 50-year-old protocol. It's just part of our lives. Like everybody, you can't get your degree without email, right? I don't remember the number, but some people have probably read, what share of the population reads their email on their phone in the morning before they kiss their significant other or pet their dog or whatever it is, right? It's just in our lives. And so you kind of don't notice it necessarily. So that's an important point. It's, by plenty of measures, the largest peer-to-peer communication system on earth with 4.5 billion active users. It's bigger than Facebook. It's, and that's part of, the gods of the internet came to us and they gave us these open source protocols that, remember I said scale, these protocols scaled so well because they were free, right? I mean, there's actually no profit incentive built into this. It's just people gave it to humanity. And that allowed it to work differently than some of the Web 2.0 platforms. So it's prolific, it's out there, it's part of our lives. So maybe it's just not noticed, for one. And then two, it can be difficult. Like every system out there, every analytics system is built to prove that that advertising works. Well, analytics is there to prove that Google Ads works. You know what I mean? That's just what everybody who goes and gets triple whale, that you get that when you're like, hey, we're going to start advertising, right? So we need to make sure that our advertising spend is done carefully. And of course you do. So all these platforms are really built around advertising. But then you take this channel. I mean, I think if you're getting a couple campaigns a week, for instance, right, from some brand, that's like driving by a billboard twice a week, right? Just constantly having the brand awareness reinforced. And very common, when we analyze brands, we'll look at our adjusted unique opens, then you pull out a bunch of Apple privacy opens. Very common to see like as many unique opens as ad impressions, right? Which means that this thing is driving just as much brand awareness, we'll say reinforcement, as your top of the funnel. So it is an advertising tool. It's just an advertising tool that has a big x-axis. It has a big time axis. Well, that's a little harder. That is a little harder to attribute. It becomes kind of halo effect. There are things you can do. There's a little technical. You can create quarantines where 1% of your list doesn't get any emails. They might get the welcome email, then nothing else. And then you can see what's the spend differential. There are ways you can attribute it. But point being, second reason, it's the systems aren't really built to attribute this channel, which is just, again, part of our lives, but no one's really spending on it. So it doesn't have as much priority in these attribution systems.
Yes.
I'll close with one thought though. It could just be that if people aren't aware of email, it's because they haven't experienced the absence of it. I was talking to a prospect the other day they were getting an audit, and they were just asking, like, we were just discussing their email program, which had trouble, and their new CEO, who was experienced and had been with some other brands with us before, he said, yeah, in my experience, when you send an email, you have a really good day. And right now, we send an email and we have the same day. And so this is very kind of, if anyone's ever used email for e-commerce, and then suddenly your email system goes down for whatever reason, you end up in the spam folder or something goes wrong, you just suddenly, all of your channels just boom, drop. Yeah. Because if you think about, final point here, if you think about kind of Meta and Google, this isn't my expertise, so I don't know all the terms, but they've obviously got systems that will mix your new traffic with your kind of retargeting traffic and kind of mix them all together and optimize that. Well, if you send an email out and someone's been on your site and they're in your retargeting funnel and that email causes them to convert, your platform retargeting attribution goes through the roof. So suddenly when email's not working, all of your platforms start looking worse, right? And then you have to stop spending as much on advertising. So if you haven't experienced having email and then losing it, you don't know what you're missing.
Interesting. So overall, let's say for a brand, just want to focus more on retention, right? Obviously, email is just one part of it, right? Let's talk about the other aspect, like retention, maybe this on the CRO side. How do you approach CRO? How do you optimize? What are the data points that are important for you?
Yeah. When I began kind of some of my CRO work here at Pilot House, there was a lot of focus on kind of landing pages because Pilot House, it's performance agency. So of course there's a lot of advertising going on. A lot of the stuff that we're discussing, they're making advertising work better. So landing pages, get some interstitials in there. But kind of one of the unlocks that people need to think about is, okay, well, rather than just thinking about optimizing that advertising traffic, again, all focused on advertising, let's not that most websites, the page with the most page views is the homepage, right? And the homepage gets qualified, like more qualified and less qualified traffic. It gets people who know who your brand is and they're coming and they're showing up and they know what they want. It gets people who just found you on a long tail keyword, right? And it's got a ton of page views. So we think about, and I can by the way, anybody you can read, I've got some great recent episodes of this in the World Best Email Retention podcast. But you can go in and really think about funnels through your site, starting on these mega page view pages like home or other pages. And so the path that we want, if we're talking straight e-com, the path that we want is someone hits home, they go to a product page, they put something in their cart. That's the primary path you want. The secondary path is they hit the home page, they go through some specific path, and it might be like category page, then product page, right? Sometimes it would be homepage to content or informational page to product page, whatever it is. There's a few funnels that you want to set up on your site. Understand the volume of those funnels, how many people are passing through those funnels. Understand the volume of those funnels relative to the whole site. What portion of our whole site traffic is these funnels? And then finally, along those funnels, every funnel has a couple of primary choke points. Those are the things someone must click on to progress. For instance, add to cart is a classic primary choke point. Everyone understands that, right? And then you've got secondary choke points. And the secondary choke is using heat mapping. What is the aspect of that page that drives the most attention other than the primary choke point? And, it's either the right secondary choke point, like they're looking at features and benefits, or they're looking at videos that reinforce that they're going to get someone to click. Great. Sometimes the secondary choke point is like, why are people looking at this? And let's get this off that page quick, because it's just great. Right? Sometimes the easiest optimization is to hack and slash. Anyway, point being, think about you need volume and rate to optimize. So think about where's all the volume, right? And often homepage, but you might have some other ones. Okay, and what's the path to get someone to purchase something? And set that path up with tracking software and find the primary and secondary choke points and actually start changing those. And look, I'll just say that final point on this, when I started doing this at Pilot House, and I was just talking to people, hey, how do I package this up, right? How do I package this up so that we can help people? I talked to one prospect who said, yeah, I went somewhere and, I went to another agency basically. And they say, hey, we do a dozen things, and they rolled in those dozen things and our conversion rate got worse. Right. So you have to think about, the strategy is about making decisions. So you need to have the right information to make the right decisions, and you need to focus your work. And so this first step in focusing that work on a website is absolutely quantifying where people are and the rate at which they progress, and finding 2 or 3 places to make changes. And don't make any changes anywhere else, because you're either going to make something worse, right? Or at worst, or likely nothing's going to happen at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're working with data, right? You have this qualitative data, whatever accumulated data you have, or you mentioned heat maps, probably GA4 is also in the mix.
Yeah, for sure.
And you do some changes, and how do you know that you made the right decision? When do you figure out if it's working or not? How fast you iterate?
Yeah. So, most funnels should end on PDP, and you've got one funnel, which is PDP to cart. Right? That's like one unified funnel. It would be for any PDP. So you've got a bunch of funnels that end at PDP. So, look, when it's working, you are going to see an improved rate of people completing that funnel, which is an improved rate of people from wherever their entry point is to reaching a PDP.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first point. So we want to see an improved rate. Also, of course, if you want to refactor your website, if you want to rebuild your website, you can increase the volume of people entering those funnels, right? Hey, let's put this page here, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. But point being, you are going to see the rate at which people complete that funnel improve, and perhaps the share of the site that all your funnels account for increase if you refactor things. And then you will see also, and this is right in Shopify. You don't even necessarily need a funnel for this one. Right in Shopify, you've got your add to cart rate. So if you just peel off these few funnels, and I'll give an example of this so it's not just so hypothetical and theoretical. Most people, back in the day, a lot of sites had like mega SKU because, you'd have like a bunch of different brands and it was a listing service. These days, a lot of people, are brands and they've got, 30 SKUs or something like that. Well, hey, if you've got whatever it is, however many SKUs you got, if you got a product that's 25% of your sales, you have no idea how often I see someone who's not just featuring that product as they're above the fold on the homepage. Everyone's coming to you for that product. Why aren't you just above the fold? Here's that product. Here's a headline, a really well-written headline that explains your brand and that product in kind of one go, and then a button, buy now.
No, I love it. Really love it. Just zoom in and make the strong stronger, right? If you find something that is working, just zoom in and put extra focus on it. It makes a lot of sense. You fell in love in all your SKUs, right? But you have like winners, heroes you focus on, right? Interesting. Jordan, what does the current state of the inbox look like in 2026? Is it like more crowded, more broken, more opportunity?
It's I had a great talk with I'll plug a partner of our senders.co on the pod when we really got into the differences between different kinds of brands, right? So I analyzed in the fall American Eagle, Everlane, Urban Outfitters, DeWalt we just did, and we looked at inboxing. And some of these brands are sending 1.25 to 1.5 emails a day. So if you've got a storied domain, if you've got, if you've got a domain that's been around for 1 or 2 decades and you've just been sending a million emails, you can get away with so much because the inbox providers, primarily Gmail, secondarily Yahoo, and then Shrapnel, they know, hey, this is real. Because that's their big thing. Like, is this real? Every single time they can, hey, is this real? Is this real? Is this real? Because apparently, the number is half of emails are spam. That's the number that I read, right? Out there in the world. So if you're established, you can send so many emails and get so much inbox placement. As you're scaling up, you have to be more tactical. So I'll just say, like, the play that we use to get for brands that are on their way, and this is the play that I recommend everybody out there in audience land use in their own business, is keep a tight campaign window, because since 2024, Gmail and Yahoo have tighter inboxing requirements. They're stricter on spam complaints, right? Our whole 2024 was just cleaning up people who were in the spam folder from these new requirements. So have a tighter campaign window and more automated emails, right? Like, something you can do today is everybody out there, go add one more email to all of your abandonment flows, right? And just have more emails that go out in an automated fashion, because a one-to-one email inboxes at a higher rate than a campaign, because of course Gmail and Yahoo, they bear the cost of transmission. So they're not looking for a reason to send your email. They're looking for a reason to not send your email. They're saying, hey, can we find any reason to not send this? Because we're paying to send this. This is free, right? The mystery of email. How is this free? So understanding they're looking for a reason to not send your email, and they have limited resources like every business. Of course, they're going to look at the campaign with 1 million emails. They look at that one first. And they analyze that one with a lot of resources. Then the campaign with 100,000 emails, and then 10,000. And then suddenly when you get down to one-to-one, hey, we're sending this email to this. It has to be a pretty bad email for them to really, really focus on that and try to do anything about it. They just, if it clears the immediate checks, it just inboxes it. So shifting in 2026, you want to be shifting what you're doing from heavy campaign to heavy automation, and use campaigns to just keep people informed about what's happening in your business, but really drive the lane with automated emails. And that will keep you in the inbox. You'll also have to do less work on campaigns. It'll also make your whole program more kind of higher productivity.
Yeah. You mean, when you say less campaign, you mean moving to a kind of a plain text, like a sequence? It's not manual, right? It's anyhow.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So let's talk about campaigns and automations. Campaigns would be manual. We're putting together a campaign and it's like, hey, we're launching blue widgets. Blue widgets are the hottest thing now, right? So some companies, they'll do, again, if you can do 1.5 of those a day, if you're one of these mega brands. If you're not one of those mega brands, you're doing 1.5 a day, it's more difficult. You don't have that trust from inbox providers. So
Yes.
and especially you start doing that number of messages, you have to have the same send size. You have to check all these boxes, all your alt tags to be perfect, right? Okay, well, let's say you move from 5 of these a day, which is a lot. Also, your audience is informed. If you're sending them a campaign every day, you're not going to, you lose from your list. Let's say you had a 1% unsubscribe rate, which is a high unsubscribe rate. That means every time you send an email, you lose 1% of your list. If you send 150 campaigns a year, you lose 150% of your list a year, meaning you have to refill that with new addresses. Crazy. Let's see you move that to 2. But for people who've visited the site, hey, we're making sure that they get like 5 automated emails over 2 weeks. If you do that, you're hitting everybody who showed intent, and you have to produce 3 less campaigns a week. And so your designers, happier. He's happier.
Again, make the strong stronger. Just be more focused, right? And
Yeah.
need those passionate. Jordan, let's talk about the world's best email and retention podcast, right?
Yeah, thank you very much for that intro. The world's best email retention podcast is really a passion project of mine. I put in all of this time in my career working on a lot of outbound and, like I say, website. I mean, in one way or another, for 25 years, I've been working on a website. And I wanted to just record it somewhere. Actually, one of the reasons I went to Pilot House was to pass on my skill set to the next generation of internet professionals. And so I can work with a lot of, gifted, talented young people at Pilot House. So as a passion project, I go on there and I'm just entrepreneurs, webmasters, and spammers and, everybody out there. I'm just looking to pass on the most knowledge I can, in the time that I have at Pilot House. And then, hey, you know what? Sometimes we get a few leads here, and if we get a few leads, it kind of just pays itself off, and it's all good with the board, etc. So it is jam packed with information on specifically how to make your post-click experience profitable and effective. And some of the episodes are long. Like I do a lot of 50-minute or 1-hour episodes. I go really, really in depth. Some of them I have to cut in half.
Wow.
And the guests that I have on the pod are all tools that we use. So it's a chance. I mean, if you're hearing from this tool on the pod, you know that we use it on our dozens of clients, which kind of helps us, explain the value. So that's the world's best email retention podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, and you can also come to pilothouse.co. And of course, fill out the lead form and ask us any questions.
Great. So these are the best way to reach out to you, Jordan, through the podcast, right? It's available on all platforms. Also, always the Pilot House domain. Again, about your LinkedIn. Jordan, anything else you want to add?
Well, look, you can't scale without email, right? And so everybody out there, like I see this all the time. People come in and they are kind of emails this afterthought. There's someone's like, oh yeah, we get our designer to also send the emails, which is, it's an old protocol. It's a touchy protocol. And to another degree, I see people often who come in and who, you go to their homepage and, hey, you're featuring this, something like you're featuring this other brand. Oh yeah, it's in our portfolio. Like I just see all the time. I see people, they're of course there's this massive focus on advertising, this massive focus on platforms, but you really have to think about the landing pad for that traffic. So everybody, if you've got like a ROAS of like less than 2 or something like that, if you're just 2026 should be the year that you are really, really thinking about that landing pad, and it will improve the results of your advertising.
Yes, again, super, super important. Definitely, you're actually leaving money on the table, right? Without using these retention tactics. So, Jordan, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great talking to you.